That was a little bit more involved than I thought it was gonna be. I had to, because Rumble, I can only have 1 stream set up at a time, so I had to go finish that one that we just did and then reset up another one. Yes, long time no see. Hamilton, I wanted to get back to you. You are not jailed. If you can see your comments, you're not jailed. Carmen and Gabby can tell you all about being jailed. They know. But you were talking about that Bishop trial, and I was going to do it. Then it was just kind of all messed up. And it's about a really tough subject that we wouldn't be able to talk about anyway very easily. And it's a touchy subject, especially because 92% of my subscribers are women. So that's touchy to talk about the things they're talking about in that trial with especially women. So I don't want to put anybody through any trauma that unnecessarily. If that makes sense, I hope it does. They also started the trial. Then I thought he was going to take a plea deal. And then he didn't take a plea deal. And then there was apparently reflections from the jurors in the plexiglass, which I don't know why they still have that up. And then they cut the stream. And I think it was only because another YouTuber was going to stream it too. He and I seem to be always doing the same thing. So if he starts this trial too, I'll be like, what are you doing? Uh, and then, but they said they could only find on Discord. I'm not that familiar with, well, I'm not familiar at all with Discord. So I just, moving on. We're not going to do it. So a lot of stuff wrong. And I think some of his supporters showed up the first day. I think I heard the judge throwing them out. Uh, it's a weird cult thing. So I don't know. No thanks. But we're going to do what I told you we're going to do. uh, we are going to do this. It's Martice. Uh, thank you, Carmen. Gabby, I'm reading your comment. Really? Goodness gracious. Thank you. I used a Christmas gift on it. It's got little flyaways there, but thank you, thank you. Alrighty. So this is Martice Fuller. He is on trial, like I told you earlier, for unaliving. He was 15 at the time. He is on trial for unaliving his 15-year-old girlfriend and attempting to unalive her mother. And this happened in 2019. He was supposed to go to trial early in 2020. He got caught on some jailhouse calls. Again, people, you gotta shh. If you're in jail, don't be talking your strategy. He was naming jurors to family members in hopes, jury tampering, intimidation, the whole 9 yards. And so his trial was delayed, and then it was going to go in August of 2020. And then things started happening in Kenosha around that time. We had Jacob Blake, you had the riots, you had Rittenhouse. So it did not happen until the beginning of 21. And so it's still you got to think where we were in 21. They are not in a courtroom. I will just bring it up and show you. I don't know where they are, but they are not in a courtroom. And I don't remember if it's on today or like when we do the next day, if we do day 2, because I went through today and yesterday getting timestamps. It pans out and you can see this big room that they're in. And I did mark that time so I could show you. I know. Whoops. Yes. Yes. But so when you pan out, um because they keep turning it off, like the camera off when the jury comes in, and I was wondering why. But then when they pan out, there are all these long tables in rows facing the counsel, defense and prosecutor tables. So I'm thinking on those tables, the jury is socially distanced there. And then uh she is up on a stage. You guys may be right. And then you've got the juror or the people that were allowed in. Uh that's a very bad pause for her, Hamilton. Uh they're socially distanced. It it's just weird to go back and look at where we were and what we were doing. Um I will give this judge credit though. If you are an attorney and you're questioning, the mask is off. If you are a witness, when you're up on the stand and you're being questioned, your mask is off. She's very good about we can hear them. And there's a couple people that I haven't that didn't take them off right away. And she may, she's like, "Y'all take your mask off." So far nobody's pushed back on that. Um, and the audio, at least for me sounds good. So I hope for you guys it sounds good. Uh I other than that, I haven't watched it uh any just to get timestamps and just enough to know. I told you the prosecutor that if y'all want to know, if you watch my Shonda videos and want to know why I have an issue with some prosecutors, you're going to see him. This prosecutor in this case, not this case didn't do it specifically. I haven't watched him in it. Watching him in another one, he's the one that gave me a very bad taste for prosecutors because I saw him pull some shady stuff, to put it politely. If I had known it was him, I probably wouldn't have looked at this trial. So, but I do like his assistant that's in here. So we're going to watch it. If you see me banging my head on the wall or my desk or whatever, that's why. It's him. It'll be him. Um, and you will get a glimpse at why I said in my Shonda videos, I don't like prosecutors. However, I said at the end of those Shonda videos, that prosecutor was excellent. And I really, really like him. I'd love to see him. Uh, I'd love to see him try another case. So I don't know if we'll ever get that opportunity, but maybe. I'm hoping that he's just going to be good in this one and not make me want to vomit. Alrighty. Let me make sure they're all boosted. It was very loud when I turned it on. All right, they're all boosted. Again, you guys know. Let me see if I could get these moved too first. You guys all know the rules. Yeah, let me know how my sound is.
Will now make opening statements.
There it is. Hello.
The purpose of an opening statement is to give the lawyers an opportunity to tell you what they expect the evidence will show you so that you will better understand the evidence as it is introduced as it comes into the trial. I must caution you, however, that opening statements are not evidence, and that's why you don't have your notebooks yet. Okay?
At least they get them.
Everybody can hear and is comfortable? Okay. Miss Gabrielle.
Oh, Miss Gabrielle. Well. There you are, Gabby. She's like, I can't reach. I can't put that up there yet. All right, I'll be quiet.
Martice Fuller was Kaylie Juga's first boyfriend. And on May 9th, 2019, he made sure that he was her last. Kaylie and Martice dated for about 10 months. Martice Fuller, during that time, hurt Kaylie. He stalked her. And on May 9th, 2019, he killed her and tried to kill her mother, Stephanie. She was 15 years old. Can you put Exhibit 2 up?
I believe they
This
said
is Kaylie Juga. During the 10 months that they dated, Martice Fuller spent a lot of time with the Juga family. He and Kaylie didn't really go on dates. They were either at her house with her family or out and about with members of her family. He ate dinner with them regularly. He watched movies with them in the evenings. He went to her younger brother's football games with the family. He even spent Thanksgiving and Christmas Day with the Juga family. But at the end of February of 2019, Kaylie decided to break up with Martice Fuller. Martice Fuller, however, could not take the breakup. He could not let go. He couldn't let go of his anger or his control of her. You'll hear that during their time together, he engaged in abusive behavior towards her. He was controlling. He would check her phone. He would check up on where she was when they weren't together. And he would even hurt her when she didn't do what he wanted her to do. You'll hear from Jennifer DeZoma. Jennifer DeZoma was a close friend of Kaylie during the time that she dated Martice Fuller. And Jenny DeZoma saw this violent behavior firsthand. On one occasion, she saw Kaylie and Martice arguing. And when Kaylie tried to walk away from the argument and tried to walk away from Martice Fuller, Martice grabbed Kaylie by the ear and dragged her down to the ground in school, in a common area, in front of other people. And Kaylie was crying because of this. And when Jennifer DeZoma said to Martice, "Don't ever do that again," to Kaylie, he just laughed at her. Another time, Jennifer DeZoma says that she saw Martice and Kaylie at school, and they must have been arguing, and Kaylie tried to walk away. But again, Martice grabbed her by her arm and pulled her back tightly, hurting her, and would not let her go. And later, when Jennifer DeZoma asked Kaylie if Martice did this more often than what she saw, Kaylie nodded her head yes, and lifted up her shirt to show some bruising that she had on her abdomen from Martice Fuller. Kaylie's parents did not know about this. Jenny DeZoma did not tell Kaylie's parents. She did not tell a teacher. She did not tell an adult. She thought she was protecting Kaylie this way. She thought if she told, Kaylie might not confide in her anymore, and Kaylie needed someone to confide in. Jenny DeZoma was also 15 years old. Even teachers at school saw violent behavior by Martice to Kaylie. On January 17th of 2019, there was an incident at Bradford High School, something that set all the rest in motion. Kaylie and Martice were in the hallway, and again, they were walking to class, and it seems that Martice wanted to talk to Kaylie, and she did not want to talk to him. He grabs her by the arm to pull her back, but she keeps walking. He steps in front of her to block her path, but she goes around him. He corners her up against the lockers, but she gets around him. And when they enter into their classroom, you'll hear from the two teachers who were present there, Ernest England and John Friery. Ernest England and John Friery will tell you that they saw Martice Fuller hurting Kaylie Juga. That when Kaylie came in, she was crying, and Martice came and sat alongside her. And Kaylie was asking Martice to leave her alone, and he wouldn't. And then she asked the teachers to please sit Martice someplace else. And they tried, but he would not listen to the teachers. And he grabbed Kaylie's hand, and he grabbed her wrist, and he was trying to get her phone away from her. And he's twisting her wrist, and he's bending it backwards so much that the teachers see her skin turning white. And they tried to get him away from her, but Martice Fuller would not listen to these two teachers. He takes her phone away from her and refuses to give it back. The teachers had to call school security to come intervene. And Kaylie's still crying as this happens. Martice finally throws the phone back at Kaylie after being instructed to give it back by the teachers. And then the two are separated by school security. School security walks Martice one way, and Vice Principal Jill Schwensen, who you'll hear from, and Mr. England walk with Kaylie another way to go back to the office. And as they round the corner, they encounter Martice with the two school officials he was walking with. And they warn him, stay away from Kaylie. But he doesn't listen to them. Again, he tries to grab at Kaylie. He grabs her shoulder. He grabs her backpack and is saying to her, you're going to do me like this? You're going to do me like this? Very angry. Jill Schwensen was so concerned by this behavior by Martice Fuller that she drafts what the school called an abeyance agreement. This agreement says that in order for Martice Fuller to remain at Bradford High School and in his current classes, he is not allowed to have contact with Kaylie Juga while they're at school. He will be removed from the classes that they have together and put in different classes at a different time. Martice was very angry about this agreement when Ms. Schwensen talked to him about it. He tried to minimize what happened to Jill Schwensen, claiming that the teachers had blown this out of proportion, the things that they said they saw. And even Kaylie, to protect Martice, tried to minimize what happened. But Jill Schwensen was not convinced. She knew and she believed what the teachers told her. And so Martice signed this abeyance agreement. And the agreement said if they had any contact at school, Martice Fuller would be expelled from Bradford High School and have to enroll in e-school. Kaylie and Martice also spoke to Kaylie's parents about what happened. And they minimized to Nick and Stephanie Juga. They convinced Nick and Stephanie Juga that it wasn't as bad as the teachers were making it out to be, that it had been blown out of proportion. And so Nick and Stephanie Juga allowed Kaylie and Martice to see each other outside of school after that. About a month later, Kaylie decides she wants to break up with Martice. And so she tells him they're done. And at this time, she means it. This time, it's for real. And she refuses to take any of Martice's phone calls or answer his messages after she tells him that they're through. And he keeps trying and trying, but she does not answer. And so then, on February 28th, 2019, he confronts her at school. Again in the hallway, he tries to grab her. He tries to get in front of her so that she has to talk to him and corners her against the lockers just like he did that first time. And she gets around him and she's afraid and she's upset. And when she gets out of school, she tells Jenny DeZoma and she tells her mom what happened. And she's not sure what she should do about this. And they counsel her. They tell her. Jenny DeZoma remembers specifically telling Kaylie, you have to tell the school. You have to tell the school resource officer. Because if you don't, he'll keep doing this. And so the next day, Kaylie goes to school and she tells the school resource officer, Arturo Gonzalez, what happened. So the school resource officer consults Dean Sonnenberg. The two of them together call Jill Schwensen, who entered into this abeyance agreement. Ms. Schwensen wasn't in the school that day. She was out of town. They call her. They tell her what they believe happened. And Jill Schwensen says, yes, that's a violation of the abeyance agreement. We need to call Martice and tell him that he is not welcome back at Bradford High School. And that is done. No more Bradford High School, and because of Martice's actions, no more football team. He's not allowed to play football anymore. Martice blamed Kaylie for all of that. He told his friends, who you will hear from, Martin Torres, Austin Hernandez, Desiree Flores, that Kaylie ruined his life and that he hated her for it. And in the subsequent weeks after this happened, he would go to her house late at night and skulk around after midnight. He would try to reach her using other friends' phones and messages. He threatened to go see her at her work. She was working at Martino's dry cleaning at the time, and he would call the number to Martino's frequently. Kaylie was so afraid of what Martice might do that she spoke to her manager at Martino's, and they agreed that they would block Martice's phone number from the Martino's phone line. And her manager agreed that she could keep the door to Martino's dry cleaning locked when she was there alone so that Martice would not be able to get inside if he came by. But Kaylie was still afraid. And finally, she ended up quitting Martino's, and she put in her 2 weeks' notice. She wrote this note to her manager, dated April 27th, 2019. To Brian, starting today, I will be giving my 2 weeks' notice for Martino's dry cleaning. Thank you for the opportunity to work for this company. I appreciate you hiring me for my first job. Unfortunately, due to the situation that has been going on in my personal life, for my safety, I will have to look for a job with multiple people around and somewhere where he does not know where I work. Thank you again, Brian, for the understanding of my situation. I remind you, Kaylie Juga was 15 years old, and this is the note she had to write. So while Kaylie Juga is taking steps to protect herself, Martice Fuller starts planning. He starts planning how he is going to murder Kaylie Juga. And we know, and you will know from the evidence, that during the month of April, he starts looking for a gun. His friends will tell you that. A gun to take back control.
I don't know him.
By mid-April of 2019, he had a gun. And by the end of April, he had ammunition for that gun. You'll hear from Kyle Bowens, one of Martice Fuller's friends. Martice spent several nights at Kyle's house because by then Martice had left his parents' house to stay with his grandparents. And then he left his grandparents' house and just started staying with various friends as he planned this out. So while he's at Kyle Bowen's house, he gets some 380 PPU ammunition. And he borrows a bike from Kyle. And he takes this bike and he leaves it, he stashes it at his friend Ezra Stargell's house. And you'll hear that Ezra Stargell lives within less than a mile from Kaylie Juga's house. Seven days before he murdered Kaylie Juga, he took a picture, he showed his friends his gun, and he took a picture of himself with the gun. Exhibit 1. The gun is tucked into his waistband, and he's wearing black pants. I ask that you pay attention and remember that. He sends this picture to friends. Unfortunately, no one tells Nick and Stephanie Juga. 4 days before he murders Kaylie Juga, on May 5th, 2019, video from the home security camera located across the street from the Juga residence shows someone that you will come to believe is Martice Fuller riding the bike that he took from Kyle Bowen's up to and past Kaylie Juga's house after midnight. This is the night that Martice Fuller spent the night at Ezra Stargell's house. He took the bike that he left stashed at Ezra's and starts scouting his murder. In the video, you'll see that not only is the bike the same, but he seems to be wearing a gray sweatshirt, jeans, and white shoes. And I'm going to ask that you remember that too, because you will see this outfit at other times in video. 3 days before he murders Kaylie Juga, he's spending the night at another friend's house, Desiree Flores. And he tells Desiree that he wants Kaylie dead. And not just that he wants her dead, he wants Desiree to help him kill her. He wants Kaylie dead. And when Desiree says, why would you want this? He says, because Kaylie ruined his life, and Kaylie's mom ruined his life. He blames them for what has happened to him. Desiree will tell you that Martice had white shoes, he had a black outfit, he had a black backpack with him, and that he told her that he had a gun that they could use to kill Kaylie. 2 days before he murders Kaylie Juga, he does a Facebook search for her, trying to find out where she is. He also sends a message to Desiree Flores on Facebook Messenger. And this message says, "Do that hit with me." He's asking her a second time to help him kill Kaylie Juga. 1 day before he kills Kaylie Juga, he does another Facebook search for her, looking for her. And he spends the night at Alexis Furtney's house. This is another friend of his, who's also a friend of Kaylie Juga. And while they are together, a picture is posted on social media that has both Alexis and Martice Fuller in it. A picture that Kaylie Juga was sure to see. considering her friendship with Alexis Furtney. May 9th, the day that Martice Fuller murders Kaylie Juga, Kaylie wakes up and she does see this picture on social media of Alexis and Martice.
At 15.
And she knows that her friend, her so-called friend, Alexis, has allowed Martice to spend the night. She feels betrayed by Alexis. Alexis knows what Martice has been doing, knows how Martice has hurt her and stalked her. And she feels this betrayal and she's upset about it. And she tells her mother how upset she is by this. Meanwhile, and so she messages Alexis Furtney to say, how could you do this? How could you let him stay with you when you know what he's been doing to me? Well, Alexis immediately wakes up Martice after she has this exchange with Kaylie, and she tells Martice, Kaylie's upset. She's upset because I let you spend the night here. Do you know what Martice's reaction to that is? At 11:52 a.m., he sends another message to Desiree Flores and says, I'm so mad, you need to do that to her. This is now his third time telling Desiree Flores she needs to help him murder Kaylie Juga. She doesn't do it. She doesn't respond. But no one warns Nick and Stephanie Juga. And even though Alexis that morning thought that Martice would be staying with her family indefinitely, Martice says, no, I'm going to spend the night at Ezra's tonight. Can you please drop me off there? Can you drive me there? And she agrees. Remember, Ezra Stargell, the one who lives less than a mile away from Kaylie Juga, where the bike is stashed. You will see video or pictures from video of Martice Fuller and Alexis Furtney leaving her home. And you will see that Martice Fuller is wearing blue jeans, a gray sweatshirt, white shoes, and has a black backpack on his back. They go to Stein Gardening Gifts for a quick errand, and there's video of him there again. Same outfit can be seen. And then Alexis drops Martice Fuller off at Ezra's house. And soon after arriving, even though he just got there, he texts Alexis, and tells her to come back and get him in about an hour. But then he texts Ezra, who's in the other room with his mother, Alicia, who had just had surgery, that he's leaving. So he was supposed to be staying, but then he leaves. And he says he's going to his grandmother's house. But Ezra sees him leave through the window and sees that Martice rides off on a bicycle at around 2 p.m.
Kathy.
This is part of his plan.
Me too, Gabby.
You will see a map that will show you the route we believe Martice Fuller took from Ezra Stargell's house to the Juga house. Along that route, there is a Nest doorbell camera that captures video of Martice Fuller. And in that video, Martice is riding the bicycle. He's wearing the gray sweatshirt. He's wearing the jeans. He has the white shoes, and he has the backpack. Hood up. This camera is on a house that's very close to a neighborhood park. This park is on the way to the Juga house. This park has a tree line that is dense.
Good.
A tree line that is perfect for hiding a bike, hiding a backpack, and putting on different clothes if you're about to murder someone. And that's exactly what Martice Fuller does. He puts on dark clothing, he hides the bike, he hides the backpack, and he watches the Juga house. And you can see the Juga house from this park. And as he starts to walk towards the Juga house on the sidewalk, he drops a bullet. Either he ratchets the gun to make sure it's loaded and one bullet flies out, or it drops out. This bullet is the same brand and type of bullet used to shoot Kaylie and Stephanie, and it's later found by the police on the sidewalk. At 2:20 p.m., Stephanie Juga returned home with Kaylie. Stephanie had gone to pick up Kaylie from school, as she does every day, a schedule that Martice Fuller was well aware of. She parks in the driveway, which I said is visible from the park, and she leaves the overhead garage door open as she and Kaylie go inside the house. At 2:56 p.m., the evidence will show from that camera from across the street, from the neighbor's house across the street, Martice Fuller walking up to the Juga house from the direction of the park. Now he is wearing a dark sweatshirt, hood up, dark pants, but still visible are his white shoes. And as he gets to the next door neighbor's house, he doesn't walk along the sidewalk and walk up the driveway into the Juga house. He cuts across the neighbor's grass diagonally and then climbs over a little fence that separates the two properties at a point that is as close to the Juga garage, the corner of the Juga garage, that you can get. He does this because Kaylie Juga's bedroom windows overlook the driveway. Stephanie Juga's home office overlooks the driveway, as does her bedroom. And there is a camera, a security camera mounted to the front of the Juga residence, right in the center, that would, if it had been working that day, would have captured Martice Fuller walking up the driveway. So Martice, knowing all this, takes this other route so that he will not be seen as he enters into their home. This home security video will show you that within a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, after entering into the Juga house, you will hear on that video the chilling sounds of gunshots. 7 gunshots that killed Kaylie and almost killed Stephanie Juga. No one else was home in the Juga house that day, a schedule that Martice also knew well. Knew that Nick Juga would still be at work, knew that Kaylie's 2 brothers would be at school or at work also. Stephanie Juga will tell you that her daughter was in her bedroom listening to music, and that she, Stephanie, was in the bathroom getting ready to dry her hair when she heard her daughter scream. And then she heard a shot, and she heard another scream from her daughter and another shot. And she ran from her bathroom, which is on the far side of the master bedroom, and she saw Martice Fuller in her house. and she saw he was holding a gun. And his face was facing her, and he was pointing the gun at her. Martice Fuller, someone she knew quite well, someone that she would not and could not mistake for someone else. And as he points the gun at her head, she says, "You don't have to do this." And he says, "Yes, I do." In a voice that she would not and could not mistake for anyone else's, a voice that she had heard many times over the prior year. And then he lowered the gun to her chest and he shot her. And as she tried to get away and close her bedroom door, he pushes open the door and shoots her again. 2 shots, one through her wrist, into her breast, and out the breast. And then another bullet, another shot into her left breast. That bullet is later removed in surgery. And she runs back to her bathroom and she locks the door so that he cannot shoot her again. And she calls her husband and she calls 911 frantically. And you'll hear that 911 call. You will hear her panic and her fear as she tells the dispatcher that she has been shot twice. And it is unmistakable that the shooter is Martice Fuller, her daughter's ex-boyfriend. And she doesn't know where her daughter is. And she doesn't know if her daughter's hurt. And she doesn't know if Martice is still in the house. And while she's on the phone, still with the 911 dispatcher, she leaves her bathroom to find her daughter. And what she finds is the unimaginable. She finds her daughter on the floor of her bedroom, shot and bleeding and turning blue. And with the guidance of the dispatcher, she tries as best she can, after having been shot twice, to do CPR on her daughter, screaming for someone to help her, screaming to Kaylie to please stay with them until someone can come help. Finally, the police arrive. The deputies first. And not knowing where Martice is or whether he's still in the house, they quickly carry Kaylie out to the lawn and they rush Stephanie out of the house. And they try. The officers try to save Kaylie. EMTs arrive. They try to save Kaylie, but it was too late. You will hear from Dr. Kelly, the forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy of Kaylie Juga, that Kaylie's injuries were impossible. He will tell you that even if there had been a team of surgeons in that bedroom at the very moment Martice Fuller was done shooting her, they would not have been able to save her. Despite the efforts of her mother and of the police and the EMT, no one would have been able to save her. She had been shot 5 times. 3 times in the right side chest, once in her center chest, and once in her face. 1 bullet that he shot into her is later found lodged in the subfloor under the carpet of her bedroom, as if he was standing over her as he shot her. she had stippling marks to two of the gunshot wounds. Stippling meaning that the gun was at least 12 inches away at the time that he shot her, leaving these marks on her skin. And as Kaylie lay dying in her bedroom, Martice ran away. Headed, we know from the cameras, in the same direction that he came from, the park, where the bike is hidden, and then Ezra's house. He gets his bike, he rips off the black clothing, and he rides back to Ezra's house as quickly as he can. And when he gets back inside the house, Alicia Stargill is still there. By now, Ezra has left. He went back to school. But Alicia's still there, and she hears Martice Fuller come in. And she sees that he is upset. And he says that he's trying to reach his mom or his dad, and he can't reach them. So she tries to help him reach them, unsuccessfully. And then he tells her that he's leaving. And as he leaves, he tells her, if anyone comes looking for me, I wasn't here. By then, Alexis Furtney has returned to pick up Martice Fuller as she was instructed to do. And she says that when he gets in the car, she can see that he's upset, and she notices that his white shoes that he had been wearing earlier were dirty now, as if he had been walking through dirt, the kind of dirt and mud that you would see in that park by the tree line. Martice tells Alexis Furtney that one of his cousins shot Kaylie Juga. And he's concerned because he's afraid everyone's going to think it was him who did it. And he's concerned about this because he says, well, you know, I dated her, and so my fingerprints are probably on the door handle of the house.
Probably.
Alexis drops him off at a relative's house on 22nd Avenue. And from there, we know that various family members arrive because they have heard what has happened. And they know that the police are looking for Martice Fuller. Martice's cousin, Dontrell Seymour, and Dontrell's girlfriend, Michaela McCoy, pick up Martice from this house on 22nd. And knowing that the police are looking for him, they drive him to Racine. He tells Dontrell, she gone. While they're in Racine, they go to an aunt's house. And at that aunt's house, Martice takes the gun that he used to kill Kaylie and shoot Stephanie, and he wraps it up in a diaper belonging to one of the little family members. And then he puts that in a plastic bag. And then he and Dontrell take a walk outside, and they walk about a block away, and then Dontrell drops the bag that has the gun into a drain sewer. Several days later, Dontrell Seymour will talk to the police, and he will tell them that this is what they did. And he will tell them where this storm sewer or drain sewer is located. And when the officers try to find it on their own, just based on his directions, they can't find it. And so Dontrell gets in the car with the police officers, and he directs them to the exact location where they then find the gun in the drain sewer. They pull it out, and it is still wrapped in a plastic bag, and inside the plastic bag is the diaper, and inside the diaper is the gun. Very wet, so wet that the gel from the diaper has exploded all over the gun. And because of this, there is no DNA on the gun. The gun, however, is sent to the state crime lab, and you'll hear from that expert witness. where she examines and test fires the gun. And she will tell you that the casings found in the Juga home and the bullets recovered from Stephanie's body and Kaylie's body were fired by that gun, a 9mm Makarov using .380 ammunition. It is a match. After getting rid of the gun, Martice then goes to yet another family member's house, Aunt Shanice Andrews, who also lives in Racine. And he hides there until May 10th at about 5 a.m. when Aunt Shanice calls the police to say that Martice is there and that they need to come and get him. She'll tell you she did this because she could no longer expose herself or her children to the danger of having Martice Fuller there. She knows the police are looking for him. She knows that in the early morning hours, the police executed a search warrant on that house, on another house, another family member's house, looking for him. The police arrive and they arrest Martice Fuller. And he's wearing the same gray sweatshirt and jeans that we have seen him in before on these videos. But what's missing are the black pants and the white shoes. Those are never found. Aunt Shanice Andrews agrees to speak to the police. And although she's reluctant and she's afraid to talk against a family member, she feels the weight of the death of this young girl. And she thinks, what if it was my daughter? What if this happened to my daughter and someone didn't speak out? And so she tells the police what Martice Fuller told her while they sat together those long hours from May 9th until May 10th of 2019. He confessed to her in those hours. And I ask that you pay close attention to the details, because these are details that Aunt Shanice could not have known unless the person who murdered Kaylie Juga and shot Stephanie Juga told her. That person being Martice Fuller. He tells her that he shot Kaylie Juga and her mother. He says that Kaylie had gotten mad because he had spent the night at another girl's house, just like Lexi told us. And so he got dropped off by a friend who had been driving him around, just like Alexis, excuse me. And that he went to a park and he changed into dark colored clothing and he was wearing white shoes, and that he had been planning this, and that he had been watching their house for a long time, and that he had a bike and he rode it to and from
You're fine. I'm just not putting it
the shooting scene. He tells Aunt Shanice that he jumped a few fences to get to the Juga house, and that he snuck into their house, and that when he got upstairs, Kaylie was listening to music in her room by herself. And he tells Aunt Shanice they did not have an argument. They did not have a fight. They did not exchange words. He saw her sitting on the bed and he shot her. And he tells Aunt Shanice that the bullets he used had been handled by a friend, Kyle Bowens, and that friend's fingerprints would be on the bullets. And that when he shot Kaylie, she freaked out and screamed. And he kept shooting. And he shot Kaylie in her face, and he saw her face bleeding. And that Kaylie's mom came and tried to close the door, and he shot her too. And when the door opened, he shot her again. He tells Aunt Shanice that he shot Stephanie Juga 2 times. And he tells Aunt Shanice that she basically let that happen to her daughter.
Don't
He blames
heard.
Stephanie Juga for trying to close the door on him for his shooting of Kaylie Juga. He tells Aunt Shanice that after he shot Kaylie and Stephanie, he ran outside and he went to a park where he changed his clothes. And that he had the bike at the park and he had it all planned out, and he had planned and texted a friend to come get him at a specific time and place. And that after he got on the bike, after changing his clothes, he went to a friend's house immediately after the shooting. That would be the Stargells. And he told the friend's mom, Alicia Stargell, that if anyone came, not to tell them that he had been there. And then his friend picked him up. This statement by Aunt Shanice Andrews to the police was given on May 10th at about 7:43 a.m. The video from across the street where we see him jump the fence in the dark clothing is not seen by the police until 6 hours later. The video from the doorbell camera where he's seen riding the bike in and out of the neighborhood is not seen until 2 hours later. Kyle Bowen, his friend who touched the bullets and gave him the bullets, was not spoken to until May 14th. Aunt Shanice knew the things she knew because the murderer of Kaylie Juga told her so. It wasn't easy for these friends and family members to talk to the police about what Martice did and what they knew and the unwitting and inadvertent role that they played in his plan to murder Kaylie Juga. But when the police talk to Martice Fuller, he gives them a false alibi. He does not speak the truth. He tells them that he was nowhere near Kaylie's house on May 9th. He tells them that he was home with his mom at noon. He wasn't riding around in a car with Alexis Fertney. He wasn't at Stein on video with Alexis Fertney. He says that he took a nap for a few hours until about 2:30 p.m. Denies that he was at Ezra Stargell's house speaking to Ezra and Alicia Stargell. And then he says at around 3:30, he left his mother's house and went for a walk near UW Parkside. That is all contradicted by the evidence. On May 9th of 2019, the unimaginable happened to the Juga family. A person that they shared Christmas Day with, that they opened their home and their hearts to, and let him share time with their precious daughter, took her life. And he looked at Stephanie Juga in the face after all their time together and tried to take her life too. And when she tried to reason with him, he told her, "Yes, I do," and shot her twice. But for one dropped bullet on the sidewalk, Stephanie Juga might be dead too. Because of his anger over his expulsion, his inability to play sports, his loss of control over Kaylie Juga. And all of this in his mind was Kaylie's fault. You heard talk about consciousness of guilt in the jury selection process. In February of 2020, we started this trial, And we picked a jury on a Friday, just like we did this past Friday. And when everyone went home to get ready, Martice Fuller instead spent the weekend contacting family and friends in an effort to get them to reach out to some of the selected jurors with the intent to influence those jurors in an attempt to get them to avoid his guilt. That is his consciousness of guilt.
If we're gonna
This is the pattern that you will see the evidence show. When he manipulates his friends to believe Kaylie's at fault for all his choices, when he manipulates his friends to give him bullets, to give him a ride to and from Kaylie's neighborhood so that he can kill her, to give him a bike so that he can get back and forth from her house more quickly, to help him get rid of the murder weapon, to hide him out, and then his false alibi to the police. This is his consciousness of guilt. It is one more way we judge his guilt, by his acts, by his choices. And the evidence will prove to you, when we are done this week, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Martice Fuller, this defendant, is at fault for all of it, and that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of first-degree intentional homicide with a weapon for the death of Kaylie Juga, for attempted first-degree intentional homicide for trying to kill Stephanie Juga, and for the armed burglary when he entered their house with the intent to commit a felony. Thank you.
That was a
Thank you.
very laid out opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. Gabrielle. Ms. Scheidegger?
Oops. Yes, we get to see it. The whole trial.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, above all else, it is imperative that it remain at the forefront of your mind what the burden of proof is in this case. At the beginning of today's trial, the judge has told you that Martice Fuller is not required to prove himself innocent. The state must prove each and every element of each crime charged. If you are not satisfied that they have met their burden, you must find Mr. Fuller not guilty. A jury trial is one of the most important affairs in life. The burden of proof is high. If there is a doubt for which any reason can be given, that is reasonable doubt. If you as jurors can reconcile a reasonable hypothesis consistent with innocence, you should do so and find Martice Fuller not guilty. There is no doubt that this is a difficult case. A death, a shooting, it's a tremendous loss for the Juga family. That being said, you can have sympathy and empathy, but your job is not to rely on those things, but rather you must set those things aside. As the state has indicated in their opening and throughout jury selection, there will be a lot of witnesses that you will hear from. I ask that you pay close attention. Judge has given you the ability to take notes, and you should do that.
And they get to take notes.
Pay attention to what you don't hear throughout the trial. What's missing? There has been an extensive investigation in this case. Many officers will testify. Listen carefully to what influenced their investigation, what led them from one step to the next. You will hear from citizen witnesses, many of whom are liars. Some are even wrong. Some will say they were mistaken. Some ultimately changed or added to their statements. Between March and May of 2019, Martice Fuller's life was in chaos. He had been expelled from Bradford High School, unable to play football, and ultimately, due to a fight with his family, he found himself homeless. He was transient. He didn't have a cell phone that had a cellular connection. He was forced to rely on using Wi-Fi when he could have internet at various locations. He found himself begging, relying on friends for rides because he was 15. He couldn't drive. He didn't have a car. He found himself relying on friends for a place to stay. He didn't have a job. During this time period, Martice was frequently frantic. He was overwhelmed. He was a 15-year-old child trying to survive. He would frequently reach out to his friends when he was in need. All the while, he was trying to stay up on school, stay up with his studies. The state has indicated they're going to present evidence that Martice was abusive, that he tried to control Kaylie, that he was jealous, that he engaged in a series of acts that constitute domestic violence, that he stalked her. What I ask of you is, it's all noise, it's distractions, to draw your attention away from the holes in the state's case, the things that they don't have. But above all else, Martice isn't charged with stalking. Stalking, domestic violence, those are loaded terms. He did not stalk Kaylie. Martice did not abuse Kaylie. These were children involved in an immature high school relationship. What this case ultimately comes down to is whether or not the state can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Martice Fuller intentionally caused the death of Kaylie Juga, that Martice Fuller attempted to kill Stephanie Juga, and that Martice Fuller burglarized the Juga home. After a fair and thorough consideration of the evidence, you may be left scratching your head throughout various moments. Why did we hear this, but we didn't hear that?
Yep.
I'm confident that you will then reach the ultimate conclusion, that the state cannot and did not meet their burden. The judge earlier has instructed that you are not to search for doubt, but rather you are to search for the truth. It's my belief that you won't need to search for the doubt because it will be right in front of you. You won't need to search for the truth. It will be abundantly clear. It's not your job as jurors to decide whether or not this is a tragedy. You as jurors shall fulfill your commitment to evaluate the evidence, and ultimately, it is our belief that you will find Martice Fuller not guilty of all the charges against him. Thank you.
If we listened for
Thank you, Ms. Scheidegger. Do you need a moment to call your first witness?
we listened for an hour, over an hour, to the prosecutor lay out her case, like minute by minute by minute. And she gets up there and is like, well, They were dumb kids. He couldn't have done it. He was homeless. He couldn't have done it. He was hurting. All the reasons that he could do it. Yeah, it was super quick. Katrina, you're right. I mean, okay. When you got nothing, you got nothing. That's my grammar. My Indiana grammar. And nope, they're not taking a break.
Are you in need of a break right now? Would you like to use the bathrooms or get a
I'd like
bubbler drink or
to.
something? Or keep going? Keep going. Okay, if all of you are okay with that. Yeah, right. Okay. That speaker comes over here, right? To my table? Yes. To my witness table? Okay, and is Brian by the door to get your witnesses?
Get him, Brian.
You can just leave that like that because they're going
There
to
he
use it
is.
again.
There he is. That's the man, Hamilton. Most punchable face on the internet sometimes. Figuratively speaking, of course, never ever would I ever for reals do it. But that's the one. Yep. Play. But yes, while we're waiting, he'll be up there in just a second. This judge is awesome with the audio.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but Steve Martin's a nice fella.
Yeah, if you want to stand up for a minute, stand up. I'm going to stand up.
Everybody
Get a
stand
little
up.
stretch.
Judge, have you explained to the jury that you told us that when we're questioning witnesses or presenting our witnesses you've asked us not to wear masks just so that they know that we're not.
Yeah.
That's a choice that was made.
I've heard from several jurors that it's difficult to understand. So I'm letting them take off their masks to question and for the witness to take off their stand. Come on now.
Come up to
And so,
the
Your Honor,
stage.
whenever we are ready, the state calls Deputy Ron Eert to the stand.
Mr. Eckert, come right up here.
Come on up.
So.
Now, one thing that these guys
If you
do.
want to switch your chairs this way, you can. And if at the end of the day you tell me this is
Okay, so when she's talking to him about switching their chairs, it's because they're all facing the counsel there at these long tables, socially distanced. So they're not facing the jury. They're not facing the witness. They were facing them speaking, but yes, so that's what she meant. But one thing that I don't understand what these guys do, and he does it and she does it, and it's not like it's not changing anybody's game or anything like that. It's not a legal thing, but it just drives me crazy because it's not consistent. It's sometimes they'll say, "Okay, officer." Never. I about said. Never mind, officer. Whatever's. Please say your full name. Spell your last, and then the next one will be. Please say your full name, spelling your first and last. And you see them thinking about it sometimes, and I don't get it. Can't be a strategy behind it, but it drives me nuts because it's just not consistent, and I like consistency. I think they are in a high school gym. I really do. Because I don't know where else they would be. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Well, I can switch over and put a witness. I can move over and put the witness over there, okay? So you can tell me that tomorrow. Okay. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes,
Please be seated, and you can take your mask off
thank you.
and speak into that microphone.
Yes. And good old Kenosha with Mr. Gravely.
Deputy Eckert, can you state your first and last name, and please spell your last name for the record?
Sure, it's Deputy Ron Eckert, Eckert.
And Deputy Eckert, how are you employed?
With the Deputy Sheriff at the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department.
Does that mean you are a patrol deputy, have a squad car?
I am.
And how long have you been employed by the Sheriff's Department as a deputy?
23 years now.
23?
22,
And do you have
23.
do you have a particular shift you work these days?
I work day shift.
Back on May 9th, 2019, so almost 2 years ago, were you on patrol? In other words, did you have a shift that day?
I was.
And on that day at about 3:02 p.m., did a call came out that you decided to respond to?
Yes.
And what's the first that you remember hearing about a call that came out that you decided to respond to?
I was finishing up a report over at Nash Park when first, I was almost simultaneous over City Channel. And then
I wondered that too.
Kenosha Sheriff Dispatch gave out a shooting that was occurring, I believe in the, forget the name of the subdivision off of 60th Street.
And was the address that was called out off of the radio 10914 66th Street?
Yes,
And that's in the city, correct?
it is.
And you work for the Sheriff's Department?
I do.
So could you briefly describe to the jury why a sheriff's deputy, what you heard that caused you to say, I'm going to go to that call in the city?
Kenosha County, the city's within the jurisdiction, well, within the county. So normally the city would handle their calls. We would handle all the calls of all the municipalities that don't have their own police departments. But we also kind of commingle areas. And with something that big, it's about saving lives, and it's not about, it's at that point, it's not about jurisdiction.
So what you heard in the call was there might be a life to be saved?
Yes,
And were you near enough by that you thought you were a person who might be able to be one of the first there?
yes,
Is that why you went?
yes.
And was this at the end of your shift?
My shift ended at 2, so I was already over a little bit anyways, but yeah,
Okay. But because of the importance of this call, you went to the scene.
correct.
And did you go, do you remember, did you go lights and siren?
I did.
And were other members of the Sheriff's Department also responding similarly? In other words, not their agency's call, but because of the seriousness and where they were, they also came quickly?
Yeah, there was a few of us that called out right away. Other guys were coming from different parts of the county. When I had pulled out on the 60th Street, just east of Green Bay Road, I started heading westbound, and I could see Lieutenant Baranis was probably about a quarter mile ahead of me. Sorry, I can't fit this chair.
No one about the audio on this.
Speak right into the microphone too,
All right.
please.
Get in there.
Lieutenant Baranis. It's Berins.
And was Lieutenant Baranis also in a Sheriff's Department squad car?
He was.
Perhaps we should point out this location, this 10914 66th Street, that would be on one of the very edges of the city of Kenosha, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And so there would be times when sheriff's deputies patrolling in areas around the city borders might be quicker than a city officer would be to those areas on the very edge of the city. Is that right?
Yes. Some of them stretches, especially along Highway K, the roadways are in the Village of Summers. And that subdivision borders the Village of Summers.
So this was one of those circumstances where county officers were going to make it quicker than a city officer because of how far out on the border of the city it is.
Yes.
So you and Lieutenant Baranis were in different squads on your way to this call.
Correct.
Were you aware of any other squads from the Sheriff's Department on the way as well?
There was several people that were calling out. I do remember Deputy Lantolt was very close to that area. He was on his way to work when this came out.
And was he in a squad as well?
He was.
Okay, so when those 3 total Sheriff's Department squad cars got to the scene, were you the first squad there, or did you follow some of those other squads that you've mentioned? Where were you in order?
In order, I was right behind Lieutenant Baranis. He pulled in. I was maybe seconds behind him. I do not remember if Deputy Lantold was already parked. I believe he was already parked and crossing the street. heading towards the house when we got out of our squads.
At the point you got out of your squad, had anyone from law enforcement been up to the home yet that was in question?
No,
So you three were the first to approach the home?
we were.
And Deputy Eckert, as you approached the home, was there anything about this radio call that would cause you to take extraordinary measures or be concerned and need to take action as you approach the home?
Well, when we were en route, when they were giving out the details of the call, it was reported that they were not sure whether or not he had left, that the shooter had left the house or not. We were under the assumption that he still may be inside the residence.
Okay, so your current information as you approached was someone has shot someone in the residence and they might still be in there.
Correct.
And did you take actions as 3 law enforcement officers to account for that?
We did.
Okay, so let me first make sure that I am at the right home. I'm going to ask you to take a look at exhibit number 4. I'm going to show you a picture, but then if you indicate to me it is the place you went, then we'll display it as well.
Right.
Can't get up there. Come on this way, and I'll hand
Here,
it.
you want me to? I got it.
Sorry. Thank you. Apologies. So I've showed you what's been marked as exhibit number 4. Is that a picture of the home that we're speaking of?
This is.
Okay. And does that appear to be the same home in terms of how it looks, other than that there's some yellow crime scene tape that's been attached within that picture?
Yes.
So does it appear to be changed or altered in any way in exhibit 4 from what you recall as being your view of the front of the home as you approached, other than the tape I mentioned?
No.
Judge, I move that that exhibit be placed in evidence, and I'd like to show.
I'm surprised the judge didn't tell him to get back on the mic.
No objection, Judge.
What number is it?
It's exhibit 4.
Exhibit 4 is received. Yes, permission to display.
You can just keep that.
Just keep it. All right.
Yeah. So again, this is exhibit 4, correct? Yes?
Yes. Yep.
So, Deputy, as you approach this home, are the doors of this home, where the basketball hoop is, et cetera, are the doors of this home in the condition that you saw them?
Yes.
So the garage door was open or closed as you approached?
It was open.
And the vehicles that are in the driveway, do those appear to also have been there at the time?
Yes.
So as you approached, what did you and the other individuals from the sheriff's department do?
We knew we had to get in quick. We approached kind of at an angle through the garage, and we made sure we entered all together. So we were pretty much, as we approached the house, everybody was together, and we went straight in.
Weapons drawn?
Yes.
As if an active shooter was going to come across you at any moment.
Correct.
And when you got inside the garage, was there an access door? Was this an attached garage?
It was an attached garage, and there was an access door that, if I remember right, goes into the kitchen and then kind of through into a living room area.
And was that access door locked or unlocked, if you remember?
It was unlocked.
And what did you and the other sheriff's department employees do when you discovered that door was unlocked? What did you do next?
We went in.
Who went in first, if you remember?
I don't remember the exact order. If I remember it, I believe Lieutenant Baranis went in first, and Lantot, and I followed him behind. But we pretty much all went in together.
And do you do that in a way where the individuals behind provide security?
Correct.
As you went in, you were on the first floor of the residence?
We were.
And what, if anything, did you as law enforcement do, and I don't need to know the specifics, but in general to announce your presence?
No, I can't tell you exactly what we said. It all happened so quick. Normally, I do know we announced, sheriff's department, whether or not anybody said, anything other than that. I do remember myself announcing sheriff's department.
Before you made that announcement, before any of you made that announcement, had you heard anything going on inside the residence as you approached or as you entered?
Not when we first entered. When we first entered, our concern was that before we could get anywhere, we had to clear the main level quick as far as safety and get to where we need to get to. So when we entered, we cleared the kitchen right through the living room, and that's when we started making our way upstairs. As soon as we hit the living room, I could hear a female voice yelling for help.
Was
upstairs.
that after you had announced?
I don't remember if it was after, pretty close simultaneously or within a short period of time.
And what do you remember this female voice saying?
She was yelling for help. She said that her daughter had been shot. At that point, she just kept saying, my daughter's shot. We're up here, help us.
And where was this individual located who was yelling to you?
On the second floor where the bedrooms were located. What
did you as a group do next?
We cleared the living room as quick as, pretty much simultaneously cleared the kitchen, cleared the living room. We knew we had to get to them, so we didn't have time to waste any time with clearing the basement. So Lieutenant Barandis held the main level at gunpoint, providing safety for us on the first floor so nobody can come in from the outside or the basement. And myself and Deputy Lanto went up the stairs to the second floor.
And just to be clear, other than law enforcement, was there anyone on the first floor?
No.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was there anyone in the basement?
We found out after the fact, no.
Okay. So as you and Langtote approach and go up the second floor, what are you seeing as you go up onto the second floor?
As soon as we approached the top of the stairs, I could see, like, off to my left, probably about midway up the stairs, you could see into the one bedroom. I could see a female laying on her back. It appeared lifeless. I seen another female kneeling down next to her, and was begging for us to help her daughter.
So when did you enter that bedroom ultimately?
We did.
And when you entered that bedroom, how was the individual who was lifeless situated when you came upon her?
She was laying on her back, and her head was faced like in the southeast direction of the residence. So she was kind of looking up.
Could you immediately indicate whether you saw any wounds of any kind on the person who appeared virtually lifeless on her back?
It looked like she had a contact wound on the right side of her head, where initially, just a quick glance, initially it looked like a graze wound, and later I found out it was an entry wound. And you could clearly see an entry wound into the pretty much almost center of her chest.
And did you come to know that the individual kneeling next to this person was Stephanie Juga?
Yes.
Did you come to ultimately be able to identify the individual on her back as Kaylie Juga?
Yes.
So having come upon Kaylie and Stephanie in the circumstances you did, Deputy, what did you do next?
At that point, we were under the assumption, because with everything going on, there was one bedroom which was right across the hallway, just a couple of feet, where the door was locked. And at that point, we still hadn't been able to establish on whether or not whoever shot her was still in the residence. And we knew we had to save her, at least get her out of the house. So Deputy Lantote held that door at gunpoint until we can get more assistance. And I could feel just a real slight pulse. It was fading, not much there. I started CPR
on Kaylie?
Correct.
So if I understand you correctly, then you thought it was possible someone was barricaded in the locked bedroom?
Yes.
And they might be armed?
Correct.
And that caused you to have to worry about that as officers?
Yes.
Okay, so when you began to do CPR, did you make any other determinations, or did you yourself try to do any other treatment while you were still in the bedroom?
When we were still in the bedroom, I attempted CPR on her. We knew we had to get her out of the room as quick as we could. I yelled down for, if we can get somebody else up here to assist. Deputy Wagner came upstairs. We carried her down out to the front yard of the house.
You carried Kaylie?
Correct.
You and another deputy as well?
Deputy Wagner.
Okay.
Once we got her to the front yard, I was able to assess her wounds a little bit better. That's when we applied a chest seal on her.
What is that for?
That chest seal is when you got an open wound on your chest, especially with damage to the lungs. It kind of seals that in where you can breathe a little bit better, and it contains blood loss.
Did you continue CPR on Kaylie as well at this time?
I did.
And did you, during that process, discover any additional wounds that were of concern?
Yeah, it was at that point where I could see that the head wound was actually a entry wound and not a graze wound. While working on her, I discovered another gunshot. I believe it was right in her left breast.
And were you any part of any sort of treatment of Stephanie?
I was not.
Okay. Now, after Kaylie was taken from Kaylie's own home, were you present when rescue attempted to take over in terms of life-saving measures?
Yes.
And what would be your rough estimate on how long after you arrived before rescue began to try to take over with life-saving measures?
I'm not sure. It was several minutes.
Okay.
It was so chaotic at the time, and at that point, we still didn't know whether or not there was somebody in that bedroom. Stephanie had told us that she never heard anybody leave the house, and that door is not normally locked. So we assumed that he was in that bedroom still.
Ultimately, Deputy Eckert, were you present when rescue indicated that came to a conclusion about Kaylie's life?
Yes.
And what do you recall rescue saying or doing that you were present for?
They said that, I don't know the exact words they used, but pretty much said that she's deceased, that they were going to stop.
And where were you guys physically located when rescue said that?
We had moved Kaylie a couple doors down so that rescue could access her. We were in the front yard. I don't remember the exact address, but I believe it was 2 residences south of her residence.
Holy cow. You don't have to eat it.
So, Deputy, as you were beginning to move Kaylie, did you make any observations about any bullets or casings at the point you began to move her?
When we moved her from the bedroom to carry her downstairs, when I picked her up, as soon as I picked her up, there was a projectile or a bullet that dropped from her back onto the carpet and a shell casing. So that came out, it fell from her back, and then the shell casing fell from the top of her shirt onto the carpet.
And when you indicate that they fell, what room of the home did each of those items fall to at the time? So let's start with the bullet. When the bullet fell from her back area, what room did it drop to the floor on?
That was right in the spot where when I approached the bedroom where she was found laying, when I picked her up, it dropped right in that spot that she was laying.
Okay, so it dropped almost in the same place you had found her.
Correct.
In her bedroom.
Correct.
And then for the casing, you said it came off of the front of her as you moved her, right? Or the front of her shirt?
Correct.
And where did that drop? What room of the house?
Same area. Same area as the bullet. It basically fell off her shirt and went straight down to where she was laying.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I get so close when he's like, I have nothing else.
Deputy Eckert, is it fair to say when you received the call from dispatch, you went to the Juga home with two goals in mind or two concerns.
With two concerns in mind.
One being there was an active shooter, was the belief of dispatch, and second, that there were life-saving measures that needed to be taken.
Correct.
So when you and your colleagues enter the home, you clear the first floor, correct?
Yes.
You locate no one else in the home other than law enforcement.
We did a quick sweep of the home. We didn't take the time to clear, but no, we didn't find anybody.
You make your way upstairs because you hear someone yelling for help.
Correct.
You ultimately determine the person yelling for help is Stephanie Juga,
Correct.
and you locate Stephanie Juga, and she's performing CPR on Kaylie Juga.
At that point that I came upstairs, she was kneeling next to her, trying to help her. Yes.
Okay. And when you get upstairs, you and the other officers were of the belief that someone may have been locked in one of the other bedrooms. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Can you give us a better understanding of the layout of the upstairs? So where the bedroom that was locked in relation to the bedroom where Stephanie and Kaylie were ultimately located?
Sure. So you got the stairs that go up, and it's kind of like in a V-shaped. So as you're approaching the top of the stairs, you can see into the bedroom, which kind of angles out. That's Kaylie's bedroom. Then there's another bedroom this way, which is probably the door to Kaylie's bedroom to the door to the other one is probably 5 feet, 6 feet.
The record should indicate he's saying to the right of Kaylie's bedroom.
Yeah, which would be the north side of the house. And then the parents' bedroom is just off to the right of there. So it kind of, I don't know, almost in like a pie-shaped hallway.
Okay. And when you get upstairs, you go into the room where Stephanie and Kaylie are, correct?
Correct.
And then one of the other officers holds what you said, cover on the door that's locked?
Yeah, we checked Mom's bedroom real quick. One of us checked, or Deputy Lanto checked her bedroom first while I held the hallway. And then he came back, took the hallway while I assisted with.
And to your knowledge, Deputy Langto didn't find anyone in Stephanie Juga's bedroom, correct?
No.
And after you begin to extract Kaylie from the residence, did you go back up to the second floor of the home?
I did not. Deputy Wagner, and I believe it might have been Lieutenant Baranis went back in for Stephanie.
And ultimately, are you aware whether or not someone was located within the home? In terms of a shooter suspect?
No.
So no shooter suspect was located in the home?
No.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Gravely, anything on that?
Nothing on those.
You're excused. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm gonna see if we can't make this taller. He's like in my chair. Okay, there we go.
Oh.
That's a little better, right?
There's a non-rolling one.
Yeah, it's just that this was so low, right?
Yeah, full.
Yeah. You're visiting the first grade.
Well, you are in school.
Okay, Mr. Gravely or Miss Gabrielle, please call your next witness.
Judge, we would ask that we take a break at this
Oh,
point.
take a break at this
Yeah.
point? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen of the jury, leave your notebooks on your tables. Everyone.
Yes, she's very hands-on judge. I like her so far. I cannot complain. It, it did make me laugh when she said, makes you feel like you're in first grade. Yeah. Then it looks like you're in first grade too. But yes, very hands-on, very making sure everybody's doing what they need to do to be heard. Yes, those questions. So Hamilton, weren't you, or are you, or maybe I'm remembering wrong, which is completely possible, an ER nurse? at one time in your life? Because if not, I won't ask the question. Sorry, my computer is doing weird things. I guess my question is, and somebody else might know this too. If somebody has, I hate, if somebody has been powed, they have holes in them, right? Where things are coming out, where fluid is coming out, for lack of a better word, the red fluid in our bodies. If you're doing CPR and doing compressions on that, are you not pushing out, like, especially she was here and here, if you're doing CPR, are you not pushing out, are you not, oh, okay, sorry. Well, then maybe somebody else will know. I don't think Roseanne is in here, but are you not pushing out the red fluid from somebody's body and making that loss more? Does that make sense? I have to put it in the most kind way possible, if that makes sense to anybody. I don't know. Just my own thoughts of the pressure that it takes to perform CPR is a lot. Also, I want to show you guys something. Well, that would also be a good point. Yes, that would be a good point too. I just like trying to, well, obviously, if what the state said is true, she was beyond help immediately anyway. So I guess it wouldn't matter. So this channel that streamed this had this up before, like during the breaks on their channel. So that is her. That's Kaylie. It just kind of shocked me that it was there, since you would think they would be trying to be impartial, but I guess not. And then there's some other advertisements. And that's there again.
Detective Brightshaft? And Mark, I left my mask in the little room. Did you get it?
So the 911 call, guys, is exhibit 72.
I've never seen that before. I think mostly because I'm generally off of, I guess, not local stuff. But yeah, I just had never
Raise your
seen
right
that
hand. Do you
before.
solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. We raised that chair. We think it's a little better. Have a seat and speak into that microphone.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Detective Brightshaft, can you state your first and last name, and please spell your last name for the record?
Certainly. My name is Detective.
You got to be so much louder than that.
Outdoor voice.
Like me, what Mr. Gravely.
Is this better?
Yep.
All right. My name is Detective Phil Brightshaft. Spelling my last name is Brietchaft.
Detective Brightshaft, how are you employed?
I am presently employed as a detective with the City of Kenosha Police Department.
How long have you been a detective?
I've been a detective since June 2017.
Prior to that, were you employed with the police department?
Yes, sir.
And what was your duty prior to becoming a detective?
Prior to becoming a detective, I was assigned to our gang unit, and before that, I was assigned as a patrol officer.
So how long in total have you been employed at the Kenosha Police Department?
I've been an employee at the Kenosha Police Department since April 2006. Present day, just shy of 15 years.
Were you on duty on the date of May 9th, 2019 at about 3:02 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And what was your duty? What was your job at that time, back on May 9th of 19?
I think it's okay.
I was a detective assigned to our investigations bureau, second shift, so 3 p.m. to 11 p.m.
When you got in for your shift, was there a call that caused you to go out to a scene almost immediately after you got there on shift?
Yes, sir, there was.
And was that a call to 10914 66th Street?
That is correct.
And is that on the sort of the border of the city?
Yes, sir.
And did you and other members of the Detective Bureau go to that call?
Yes, sir.
Why did a number of detectives go, if you know?
We were advised as the call came in that there was 2 gunshot victims. We didn't know the status as it was given, and it was presumed that one or multiple victims could have been transported to the hospital, in which case there would be a shooting scene, and then you would need to make contact with victims or witnesses as they were transported to the hospital.
So this is the type of call that would involve multiple officers, multiple detectives being sent to the same scene at the same time?
Yes, sir.
When did you go to the specific scene I mentioned, 10914 66th Street, that home?
Yes, sir.
When you got there, what happened?
I located a couple of ambulance rigs and fire rigs in the 6300 block of 111th Avenue. And as we were en route to that location, I was aware that there was no victims that were transported to the hospital. So I went directly to that scene. I located an ambulance rig and learned that Mrs. Stephanie Juga was a patient inside one of those rigs.
And did you find someone related to her also present at that location?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And who did you meet who was related to her there?
Her adult son, Mr. Tyler Juga.
And was he going to accompany Stephanie in the ambulance?
Yeah, yes, sir. As a matter of fact, he was sitting in the front passenger seat of the ambulance.
Detective, did you come as part of your duties then on May 9th, 2019? Did you come to accompany the ambulance Stephanie Juga was transported in?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And where was she transported to, if you know?
She was transported to St. Catherine's, or is now called Freighter Hospital.
When you did you go then to St. Catherine's or Freighter after the ambulance?
Yes, sir.
Did you come ultimately to know what injuries Stephanie Juga was treated for, both in the ambulance and then at the hospital?
That is correct.
And was she treated ultimately by a person that you identified as a Dr. Campbell at St. Cat's?
Yes, sir. He was the leading physician.
And what can you tell us about the injuries to Stephanie Juga as explained by hospital personnel at that scene?
Yes, I was advised that Mrs. Juga sustained a gunshot wound to her wrist, as well as to her left breast, as well as to her right breast.
And were those 2 separate gunshot wounds?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so one went through her left wrist and then into her left breast. Is that what you're indicating?
Yes, sir.
Resulting in a fracture of her left wrist?
That's correct.
And then the second one entered her right breast and was lodged inside her body?
Also correct.
And those were the 2 wounds that she was treated for at the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Did you, I'm not going to ask you what was said, but ultimately, did you have occasion to speak to Stephanie Juga so that you would be able, for instance, to recognize her voice?
Yes, sir, I did.
And so, pursuant to your duties as a detective, were you a person who reviewed the 911 call in this case?
Yes, sir.
Did only one person call 911 to your knowledge in this case?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
And did you recognize the voice of the 911 caller when you heard the call?
I did.
And who was the voice you heard calling law enforcement or calling 911 in that call?
The voice of the caller, not the dispatcher, was Mrs. Stephanie Juga.
So I'm going to ask you to take a listen to what has been marked as State's Exhibit 72. I'm going to ask you to listen to that call and indicate, is that a voice that you recognize in the context of this case? Is it in fact a 911 call for this case?
Yes, sir.
And Judge, if the jury could just tell us if they're having any trouble hearing this, just because it's going through a couple of different sort of
Okay.
technological things here.
Let us know if you can't hear.
We all know about lawyers and technology. They don't work together.
9/2019 15:11. Somebody just came in, my daughter's at Gilbert. Shocking coincidence, she just killed my daughter. Okay. 14, 56th Street. Can you come? Okay, hold on. 109, 14 West Street. 66, 109, 1466. I need not wait. She's trying to shut our city. Okay, where is your daughter? Oh my God. You said it's her ex-boyfriend? Yeah. Do you know where he is? No, I don't get the movie Martice Fuller. Okay, how old are you? I'm 38, 39. Oh my God. Okay, and you don't know where your daughter is right now? No, I don't. Everything's full of blood. I'm waiting for the check. I need that help. Please. I'm getting you help. You don't know where he is? No, I'm not going Oh my God. I have to go see her. But he shot in the chest, or shot in the eye. I told him no. She said, yes, I'm doing it. And you don't have to worry. I think I don't know. Okay, you think he took off running? I don't know where he is. My dog is barking like fucking crazy. What's this doing, Procure? Oh my God. What am I working? You guys have to hurry up. Okay. So we don't know where he is right now. Okay, where is your daughter? Oh my God, she's in my bedroom. She's in the bedroom? Good, I think you're on the medical now. Okay, what is his name again? Martice Fuller. F-U-L-L-E-R? Martice Fuller. Is he a vehicle or did he come on foot, you know? No, I don't know. My daughter's screaming. And I don't know. Please, I need help right now. This is possible. She's turning fucking blue. Okay, where was she shot? And here,
I don't know why.
where is she bleeding from? Okay, do you have a place dry cloth or towel? We want to place it over that wound and we want to press down and put pressure on that. I don't know where the wound is at, to be honest with you. I don't know. Okay, what is her name? Stephanie. Oh my God, look, what are you doing? Is she breathing? No, she's not. Okay, we're going to do CPR then, okay? I want you to place your hands in between her chest. Is she flat on her back? Yeah, here. Okay, place your hands in between, in the middle of her chest, in between the breastbone. And they're going to pump hard and fast, okay? I think I'm stuck with my well. We're going to use my wrist. My hand is in my arm, it's folded like to my wrist as well. Please, come on. Okay. Please, I fight you. I mean, that's okay. That's okay. I want you to do CPR on your daughter right now. I have to be off my arm. Is anyone else in the house? No. Okay. No, my dog's quite crazy. That's okay. I don't want you to worry about the daughter. I want you to worry about your daughter right now. I think they come to the garage door. Garage door? Yes, please. Where is everybody? They're coming. You need to do CPR on her, okay? I am. And you should come hard and fast. Don't stop until someone comes to take over, okay? You're doing really good. Oh my God. You're gonna be kidding. They're coming to keep doing CPR. That's gonna help her, okay? Oh my God. Seriously. There's a lot of people coming, they're gonna be there. How far is fast, don't stop, okay? You're gonna stop and walk, right? I know, we're gonna come help you too, okay? You're doing really good, we're just gonna help her as much as we can, okay? Come on, we're okay.
Being shot in the wrist. Yes, it's her mom.
Did he come by himself? I don't know. All I heard was my daughter scream. I heard two men shut the kid on the corner. I looked at him. I said, please tell me. He goes, yes, I'm doing this. And he shot me fucking twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, baby girl. I know. They're here. They're here. They're here. Oh my God, where are they? There's a lot of people coming. A lot. They're gonna come help you, okay? Oh my God. How old is this Martice? 15. 15? Yes. Oh my God. Okay, the book. Where am I supposed to be? Where the happening? Where are we going? Come on. Someone is gonna come in. Someone is pulling up right now. Keep going. Keep going. Keep talking to her. Okay. Keep coming. Where are they? Someone should be coming in just a minute. Do you want to bring Martice? Oh, next table.
I can't wait to answer. Thank you.
Do you know what he's wearing? No, I don't. Do you know where he lives? He lives over, I don't know, in an apartment. His parents took him off. He lives with all random people. Okay, do you know his parents' name at all? Elise Fuller, A-L-I-C-E, Fuller, F-U-L-L-E-R.
Yeah, those are the longest minutes. Meeting.
There's another one pulling up, so it should be anything in that space. What's your daughter's name? Kaylie, K-A-Y-L-I-E. All right, I want you to talk to Kaylie. I want you to remind her that you are there, okay? Kaylie, Mama's here, baby. Mama's here, baby. Mama's here. Hey, girl, I'm here. I'm here. Please come in. I'm here. I'm scared of going that way. Please come in. I can't do it. I'm shocked. Can I let you know another your thing? Yes, what's up to them? Come on.
All right, before he starts talking again, that was super hard to hear. It was hard for me to understand a lot of it for her, but I did hear her, I think, spell his name out twice at least. She did say it. And I can't imagine, like you said, Bon, she's wounded herself. And to be able to perform that CPR is crazy. I agree with you, Gabby. It's adrenaline. But then when they get there, they can't just run up to you because they have to clear the house. So help is right there. And they can't get there because they have to make sure they're okay. That is awful. Yes, Katrina, it's horrible. Like, I feel so bad for her. and then to survive it, and then she doesn't, is even worse. I mean, knowing you're only that what state said, you're here because he dropped some ammo. He dropped one piece, so he didn't have it. Yeah, just
Detective, is that the voice that you recognize as Stephanie Juga?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Is Exhibit 72 then the same 911 call that you have reviewed pursuant to this case? And is the 911 call that is, in fact, the 911 call on this case?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd move admission of Exhibit 72 at this time.
No objection.
Received.
Detective, did you, while you were at St. Catherine's, come in contact with other family members of Stephanie and Kaylie Juga?
That's correct.
And who else do you recall specifically you came in contact with of the Juga family?
I came in contact with Mr. Nicholas Juga and their son, Mason. Actually sent for an officer to pick him up from school, and so he could be with his family.
And was Nicholas...
I didn't hear that last part. Say that again.
I sent for an officer to respond to Mason's school to pick him up so he can be with his family.
To bring him to St. Catherine's?
Yes, sir.
So, and is Nick the father of Kaylie and the husband of Stephanie?
Yes, sir.
And while you were at St. Catherine's, what, if any, other duties were you assigned in terms of relaying any information?
I was assigned to make contact with Mrs. Stephanie Juga, and I was keeping abreast of the incidents that were unfolding at their residence.
And did you come to receive information regarding Kaylie's status while you were at St. Catherine's?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what information did you receive while you were there?
I was notified that she had passed.
And what were you, what did you then do with that information, if anything?
Excuse me. Yeah, Detective Howard and I told Mr. Juga and his sons that their daughter had passed.
I have nothing else.
Any cross, Mr. Johnson?
Detective Brightshaft,
yeah.
on the 911 call, Stephanie Juga is frantic, right?
I agree. She's under stress.
She sounds panicked.
I believe she's panicked, but she's still able to communicate pretty effectively. I mean, she signed off with the dispatcher goodbye. I apologize. She signed off with the dispatcher. She said goodbye in closing.
Your other interactions with Stephanie Juga, she didn't have the same volume or tone as she had on that 911 call, right?
When I spoke with Mrs. Juga in person, she was calm and inviting.
At one time on the 911 call, Miss Juga is asked how old she is. She gives the wrong age, right?
What age did she give?
She says, I'm 48, 39. Correct?
She said that she's 39 years old.
She first says she's 48, correct?
I can't confirm or deny if 48 was in response to her age or any other inquiry by the dispatcher.
Okay.
Okay, so you're not sure if the question where Ms. Juga responds, I'm 48, 39, was about her age?
I didn't review the 911 call in a written form. I merely reviewed it in the auditory.
And you don't remember that piece of it?
If Mrs. Juga indicated her first response, her age was 48, I did not observe that.
Ms. Juga at one point was also asked if she knew what the shooter was wearing.
All right. That's just playing games. We all heard it. She said 48, 48. I mean, 39, 39, 39. After she asked her how old she was, because I almost commented on it immediately, but I didn't want to. I don't like when they play those games. Just, that's what she said. I don't know. Can't confirm or deny. We all heard it.
And she said she didn't know, right?
In that auditory file, she said that she did not indicate what Mr. Fuller was wearing.
Now, you met with Stephanie Juga at the hospital later on May 9th, right?
It doesn't.
Pretty soon after I arrived on scene, yes.
The conversation that you had with Ms. Juga at the hospital was not recorded, correct?
No, sir, it wasn't.
You did some other things for this investigation other than what you've just described on direct examination, right?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, that's correct.
One of the things that you did was you spoke with a woman by the name of Alicia Hagens Stargell, right?
Yes, that's correct. The mother of Mr. Ezra Stargell.
You also spoke with a witness by the name of Kyle Bowens, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you've spoken with probably, I don't know, hundreds of other witnesses during the course of your career, right?
It's probably an accurate summation.
When you speak with a witness, you're trying to get information from them, right?
Yes, sir.
Trying to get truthful information from them, right?
Also correct.
And in order to try and get truthful information from them, I guess strike that, you're trying to get also as much truthful information as you can get, right?
Would you agree upon accurate?
Accurate.
Yes, accurate.
So you're trying to get as much accurate information as you can get from a witness, right?
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
If you were meeting with a witness, you want to give them plenty of time to provide you with that accurate information, right?
I think sometimes time is of the essence, and sometimes speaking to a witness sooner rather than later may be advantageous to an investigation.
So when you're talking with a witness, assuming you're not in the middle of an emergency, you're going to try not to rush that conversation, right?
I suppose if I'm speaking to someone in custody, I can slow things down. But I suppose if I'm trying to ascertain information to the whereabouts of a suspect at large, I may be a little bit more brief.
So let's just assume you're the emergency situation is done. It's a few days later. You're talking to a witness about maybe what they've witnessed those 3 days earlier. You'd want to take, in that situation, you could take more time, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And you wouldn't want to say to a witness, you know, I got 2 minutes. Let's wrap this thing up. I just want the highlights, right? You want everything from them, correct?
Yes.
And you want a witness to be able to provide you with as much accurate information as possible because you're going to use that for further steps in your investigation, right?
That's correct.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
So the only thing I will say about that is, no, he didn't have great questions to ask. I think he blocked the whole age thing because he was trying to say she was under stress and she wasn't getting her information right. And if she got her age wrong by 10 years, then what else was she getting wrong? So he probably was blocking that avenue. I know you guys didn't like his questionings. I didn't like the way the officer answered because I felt like he was very just, I'm gonna play some word games with you. He answered the state's questions differently, in my opinion. That's all.
Gravely, anything?
I guess I just want to ask about times very briefly. You were asked, did you speak to an Alicia Hagen Stargell, right?
Yes, sir.
And is it your belief that you spoke to her on May 9th, 2019, sometime after 9:30 p.m.?
That's correct.
So that, just so that I'm correct, that would be that's the same. That's the very same day of the homicide, and it's about 6.5 hours later, 7 hours later, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you were asked whether you had spoken to Kyle Bowens. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When do you believe you spoke to Kyle Bowens, if you know?
I believe I made contact with Mr. Bowens the week following the homicide. I believe the homicide date was a Thursday. I believe I made contact with Mr. Bowens on the following Tuesday.
And Detective, you were asked a number of sort of hypothetical questions about how you approach your questioning and whether you're trying to obtain accurate information from differing witnesses, hypothetically. You are aware of a phenomena where individuals may not, the first time they speak to you, provide you full information because they're worried about whether they themselves would be in trouble. Isn't that a phenomena that you certainly are acquainted with?
Encounter most days a week.
Okay, and that's something that you.
I apologize. I said I encounter it most days of the week.
And
You have a very deep voice and it's kind of hard to hear it. So
I'm sorry.
stay as close as you can.
And I assume then that there are times where additional interactions with witnesses of that sort provide you more information and better information as you get enough information to be able to confront people with information that allows them to feel like they should disclose more to you or tell you the truth.
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. And that's part of you discovering what the truth is in a case, isn't it?
That's correct.
Nothing else.
Mr. Johnson, anything?
I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Detective Brightshaft. Thank you very much. Mr. Gravely, you may call your next
Pretty
witness.
The state calls Officer Valeri.
Paging Officer
They
Valeri.
made another chair out there for the other guy to sit on because they can take one out of those conference rooms. I see him always standing. You know what I mean? Officer Valeri, please step up here.
If I serve a Larry. Good job, closed captioning.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you may take off your mask and please speak directly into that microphone, okay? Mr. Gravely or Miss Gabrielle.
Officer Valeri, could you state your first and last name and spell both for the court reporter, please?
My first name is Brandy, Brandie. Last name Valeri, Valeri.
And how are you employed, Officer Valeri?
I'm currently a police officer with the city of Kenosha.
And how long have you been employed as a police officer with the city of Kenosha?
Just over 10 years.
And do you have a specific role within the police department?
Yes, I am a trained evidence technician.
And when you say you're a trained evidence technician, first explain what an evidence technician does for the City of Kenosha Police Department.
So in addition to my duties as a patrol officer, I often get called to crime scenes to assist either the initial responding officer or detectives with identifying and collecting and documenting pieces of evidence relating to that incident that occurred.
And why does the police department want you to do perform that kind of function?
In collecting evidence, we can assist with proving that an offense did in fact occur, what type of offense it was, and then help link victim, witnesses, suspects, or other involved parties to that offense.
And this requires some kind of specific training?
Yes, it does.
And can you tell us about some of the training that you've had to be a trained evidence technician?
First of all, I started out with my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I obtained my certificate in death investigation, which is one of the forensic certificates that is offered by UW-Milwaukee. After I was hired, I went to a basic 40-hour evidence class in 2012, and since then I have had numerous advanced evidence courses to include mapping with total station, shooting reconstruction, evidence task force training, drug crime scene training, fingerprint identification and comparison training, and others.
She has practice.
So you mentioned shooting reconstruction. Can you tell the jury a little bit about what that involves?
So that was a course that I was able to attend in, I believe, September of 2014 out in Indiana. It was a 3-day intensive hands-on course where we were presented with numerous shooting scenarios in individuals, in different substrates, so walls, carpets, vehicles, and to learn how to take the evidence that we are observing and measuring on scene to assist with kind of determining what happened before we were there.
And does that include documenting and collecting bullets and casings from those bullets?
Yes.
Now, were you involved in the investigation of the death of Kaylie Juga and the shooting of her mother, Stephanie Juga?
Yes, I was.
And when did you become involved in that investigation?
I was actually called in to assist with this investigation and ultimately sent to the residence to assist with the evidence collection and documentation.
And when were you called in?
Off the top of my head, I want to say around 4 p.m.
On May 9th, 2019?
Correct.
So within an hour of the shooting?
Correct.
More or less. And what did you do when you arrived at the Juga residence?
The first thing that I always do when I arrive at any crime scene is to just touch base with the individuals who are already on scene to see what had been done and moved, and then conduct a walkthrough myself just to get an overall view of the scene itself.
And then what did you do?
Officer Widener and Officer Morrissey were also on scene. They are both trained evidence technicians as well. We responded to the area that we were told the shooting had occurred, which was a second floor bedroom in the southwest corner of the home.
Okay. And did you go to that bedroom then?
I did.
And what did you observe when you entered that bedroom?
After I entered the residence, I was able to see some red spots on the carpeting, which appeared to be blood, as well as numerous fired cartridge casings along the floor, and some evidence, first aid kit, and some other wrappers indicating life-saving measures.
And did you see while you were in, did you know whose bedroom that was, the southeast bedroom?
I was told the bedroom belonged to Kaylie Juga.
Okay. And while you were in Kaylie Juga's bedroom, did you observe what appeared to be casings or bullets or anything that would suggest a shooting had occurred in that bedroom?
Yes, we located a total of 6 fired cartridge casings in the bedroom floor, as well as 1 fired copper jacketed projectile, or otherwise known as a bullet.
So can you, for those who might not know, can you explain when a bullet is inside the gun, it's intact, and what happens when it's shot from the gun?
So basically speaking, a round of ammunition in a semi-automatic handgun, which is the most common used handgun and what was used in this incident, there is a total, we call it a cartridge, which is 1 bullet, 1 round of ammunition. And that consists of the actual bullet itself, which is the metal piece, so the projectile that actually exits the firearm. There is the cartridge case, which is the metal, it's kind of, trying to think, it's like a circle, a tall circle, almost like a cup that actually holds the gunpowder and that bullet, and they get crimped together. And then on the end of the cartridge casing at the back is something we call the primer, and that is actually what is hit inside the firearm to kind of start the chain reaction of a bullet going off. So when the primer is hit in the firearm, that actually ignites the gunpowder inside of the cartridge case, which heats up, builds up gases and pressure, and ultimately pushes then the bullet out of the cartridge case and out of the gun.
And when the cartridge is pushed out of the gun, does anything happen to it as it is traveling through the air?
So after the gun is fired, the bullet will then go through the barrel, which comes out of the end of the gun, and the cartridge case, so that piece that was holding everything together, actually gets extracted from the firearm in order for the next round of ammunition to be pulled into the gun. So what happens is there's actually like an extractor on, it's a little different on each firearm, but it's typically on the top of the slide area where the cartridge actually gets kicked out of it in order to, again, pull that second round and then continue the firing process if the trigger is pulled again.
So would you expect if someone fired a gun in Kaylie's bedroom to find casings within the bedroom, but perhaps the projectile or the bullet may or may not be in the bedroom, correct?
Absence the use of a revolver where the casing stays in the gun, yes.
Okay, so right, and I'm directing my questions for a semi-automatic. So casings would fly out of the gun, potentially hitting the floor or other surfaces, but the projectile or the bullet could lodge in the intended target.
Correct.
Okay. So you wouldn't find those necessarily unless they pass through the body and out, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So while you were in Kaylie's bedroom, did you find casings, or you did find casings and you found 1 fired projectile?
Initially, upon looking in the bedroom, 6 casings and then 1 fired projectile. Later on, when we removed a section of the floor, we located a second fired projectile.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Initially, when we searched the bedroom, we found 6 fired cartridge casings and 1 fired bullet on the carpet. And then later on, we removed a section of the carpeting and the subfloor, the plywood, and located a second fired bullet underneath the floor.
And maybe I've used these terms interchangeably, so let's clear this up. Projectile is bullet?
Correct.
Okay. Would that suggest to you that there were 6, potentially 7 shots in that room?
That tells me there were at least 6 shots fired in that room.
Okay. And what did you do upon observing the casings and the projectile in the room?
We took overall photographs of the bedroom, close-up photographs of each of the items in the bedroom. We take them on their own and then we do what's called scaled. So we put something down next to them that has a ruler on it to help with identifying the size of the item later on. And then we also then pick up and collect and inspect all sides of the item, taking additional photos, and then ultimately package each individual cartridge casing or bullet separately. We also take measurements of the items as they are found to assist with creating a diagram at a later time.
Do you know whether a diagram was created in this case?
Yes, we did take some hand measurements of the room, but we received the assistance of the State Patrol Reconstruction Unit that came out and conducted a scan of the room and assisted us with making a scaled diagram of the residence.
So I'm going to show you exhibit 65 right now.
All right, Gabby, I started. And when she gets done, Hamilton has an answer to our CPR question. Is that what I'm allowed? Did you research it? Because I've done less than 26 seconds and still got nailed.
Exhibit 65 and ask if you recognize that exhibit.
Yes, I do.
And what is that exhibit?
This is one of the diagrams that was created with the assistance of the State Patrol, and this is of the first floor of the residence.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes. Any objection?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, got it.
So in looking at state.
Here, hang on.
Oh, look, she handed her own.
In looking at State's Exhibit 65, the first floor of the residence, there's a garage that is marked, correct?
Correct.
And does this layout, as it's shown as the garage with the door leading into what's labeled as unknown, appear to reflect what you observed when you arrived at the Juga home?
Yes.
Okay. And so behind this unknown, do you remember what the unknown was?
I know there was like some storage there. I'm not exactly sure if the room would have like a specific name.
Perhaps a laundry room?
It could have been.
Okay. And then behind that is the family room, the kitchen, and then to the right of that, the dining room, and then the living room at the entrance of the front door, correct?
Correct.
And then there are the stairs with those vertical lines leading upstairs.
Yes.
So how do we do this? Oh, these are the stairs where I'm using the laser pointer at?
Correct.
Okay. And was anything of evidentiary value, to your knowledge, located on the stairs leading from the second floor to the first floor?
Yes, if you look on the stairs, there is a number that's surrounded by a blue box, number 8. And that is actually a fired bullet.
Okay. So that's found on the steps to?
En route to the second floor.
Okay. And then there are other items that are marked. Is it your understanding that what's marked as 19, 20, and 24 are blood spots, or what appear to be blood spots?
And 21 as well, but yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you now State's Exhibit 66. Do you know what this exhibit is?
Yes, this is an additional diagram created with the assistance of the State Patrol of the second floor of the same residence.
And does it appear to accurately reflect the layout of the home as you saw it on May 9th, 2019?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, permission to publish State Exhibit 66.
No objection.
In looking at State's Exhibit 66, there is a bedroom located right here with a lot of numbers marked. You see that?
Yes.
And do you know whose bedroom that is?
That is the bedroom I was describing earlier belonging to Kaylie Juga.
And so is this the doorway leading into Kaylie Juga's bedroom?
Yes.
And is this is marked as a bathroom?
Correct.
And there's a doorway right here?
Correct.
The laser pointer is, I should say. And right here in this space where it's marked down with an arrow, do you know what this space is?
That's the landing at the top of the stairway. So the small hallway that connects all of the rooms on the second floor.
And then this room that's marked bedroom, do you know, or did you know, or do you know now whose bedroom that is?
I believe that was Kaylie's brother's room.
And Deputy Eckert testified that there was a room where the door was locked, and at one point it was believed that perhaps the shooter was locked in that bedroom. Would this be the bedroom that he was referring to?
Yes.
Okay. And then the third, or this doorway, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth doorway in this landing opens into what's called the master bedroom.
Yes.
And I'm circling that with the laser pointer. Do you know whose bedroom that one was?
Yes, that belongs to Kaylie Juga's parents.
Okay. And so if you enter into their bedroom and turn to the right and walk along the wall, then there's a doorway to the bathroom.
Yes.
Okay. And also to a closet.
Yes.
When you were inside Kaylie Juga's bedroom, is there any significance to you to the numbers that are marked in Kaylie Juga's bedroom on this diagram?
Yes, all of the numbers that are depicted in a green color up there, so 4, 5, 6, 25, 26, and 7, those numbers would be the fired cartridge casings I was referring to earlier. And the number 3 would be the fire bullet that I had referred to earlier. RB is the area where the fired bullet was located underneath the floor of the bedroom. Number 1 is just a general area where we were told that Kaylie Juga had been located. And then just south of there, number 2 was where Stephanie Juga had been while they were doing life-saving measures on Kaylie.
There are many numbers marked in the master bedroom, hallway, and bathroom, or hallway leading to the master bath. Do you recall what those items were?
Yes, those are all red substance that was believed to be blood.
So 9, 10, 18, 11, 12, 13, 15, 14?
Correct.
Okay. And then do you recall what 16 and 17 were?
16, I believe, was a Fitbit, and 17 was a zip-up black hooded sweatshirt.
So these items that are marked on this diagram, these numbers, were they also marked while you were in the room?
Yes.
Okay.
All except for the bullet that was recovered under the subfloor.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit, sorry. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 5 and ask if you recognize this exhibit.
Yes, I do.
And what is that a picture of?
That is a photograph from the first floor looking up the stairs towards the second floor.
Of the Juga residence?
Correct.
As you saw it on May 9th, 2019?
Correct.
Permission to publish?
Correct.
No objection. I'll just save us a little bit of time. I don't have an objection to admission of the remaining photos either. Right.
Okay, so I can publish right away? Great.
Everyone is correct.
So Officer Valeri, there's a number 8 on the stairs. Can you just refer the jury or tell the jury what that refers to?
That is the fired bullet that was located on the stairway.
And that's what we saw in the diagram where it was also labeled 8, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then 19, 19 is what?
That was red substance believed to be blood.
And I'll show you State's Exhibit 6. And is that a closer picture of that same projectile?
Yes.
Okay, projectile, right?
Yes.
Was there anything of significance that you noted when you observed this projectile?
It's a full metal copper jacket bullet, and it was in excellent condition.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 7. And can you tell the jury what State's Exhibit 7 is?
This is on the second floor on the landing I was referring to, looking down towards the first floor down the stairs.
Okay. Now, there seems to be some debris on that landing. Do you know what caused that debris?
Yes, the bedroom that we were referring to earlier that had been locked, our tactical response team had actually responded and used a blast, so an explosive charge, in order to get the door open. That caused some damage to the door and a piece of furniture that was adjacent to that bedroom, and those are the legs from that piece of furniture.
Where's the rest of it?
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 12 now. Can you tell the jury what this is a picture of?
This is a photograph that was taken inside of Kaylie Juga's bedroom, and this is looking northeast towards her closet.
Okay. So just to orient the jury, these are Kaylie Juga's closet doors, correct?
Correct.
And then right here, there's a little space, and is then her bedroom doorway located?
Correct. When looking at the photo, her door is just outside of the photo to the right.
And there are these placards numbered 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 24, 25, correct?
25 and 26.
25 and 26. And can you tell the jury what those what those numbers reflect?
Those are the placards that we use to identify items of evidence, and they correspond to the numbers that you saw on the earlier diagrams.
When you were looking at this, was there something of significance that you considered when you reviewed this scene in terms of the location of these bullets or these casings?
Yes, whenever we do a shooting scene, as I stated earlier, we take measurements of items where they were located. This included each of the casings. And one of the reasons that we do that is because firearms actually have what we call ejection patterns. So taking into account a lot of different environmental conditions, we may be able to use this with other evidence to determine the location of the muzzle when it was fired.
Okay. And thank you. Yeah, yeah.
That mirror looked like a door, like a little elf door at first.
So
Like,
in looking
that.
at this room, right next to the far closet door, do you know what that square or rectangular item is?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Is there a mirror?
Yes.
Okay. On the floor?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're seeing is a reflection of the room into the mirror, correct?
Correct.
What it looked like.
So where you see extra cones and extra yellow markers, those are simply reflections of what was in the room.
Correct.
Okay. When you were looking, so when you noticed this clustering of bullets, were you able to form an opinion as to where the shooter would have been at the time that these bullets were shot?
After obtaining additional information, yes.
Okay, and what additional information did you obtain?
Well, first of all, things that I took into consideration on scene when making this decision was the type of flooring. So in Kaylie's bedroom, it is a thick, high pile flooring. It's a carpet that is not likely to have items rolling around on it. So when something lands, it's more likely to stay put as opposed to like a tile floor where if something were to land on a tile floor, it's going to roll away. So I looked at the flooring. I looked at the fact that it's an indoor location versus an outdoor location. So I don't have to worry about any sort of public traffic, any weather conditions such as wind. And then I also took into account where I was told individuals had moved throughout the room. Number 7, you can see is kind of a little bit outlying from items 4, 5, 6, 25, and 26 that are all kind of tightly clustered in the corner of the room. After talking to the initial responders, I was told that nobody had really been in the area near the closet, which means that these items 4, 5, 6, 25, and 26 likely had not been moved or altered by the activities on scene after the shooting event. Then we look at trajectories of the known bullets that were fired in the room. After the carpet had been removed, there was a hole in the plywood subfloor, well, a hole in the carpeting, a hole in the padding under the carpeting, a hole in the subfloor, which is the plywood, and then there was a hole through a joist, a 2x4, which then the bullet landed underneath it, essentially on the ceiling of the first floor. So that trajectory told me that that bullet was traveling in a downward location. There was actually a second hole in the carpet as well. This one had not actually made it all the way through the subfloor, which was likely one of the bullets that we found on top of the carpet there. So that in addition told me that at least 2 of the shots that had been fired in the room were fired in a downward trajectory. After the autopsy was completed of Kaylie, I also requested the autopsy report to get information regarding the trajectory of her injuries. And most of her injuries were from front to back, so the front of her person to the back, and from the right of her to the left of her, and in a downward angle, telling me once again that the bullets were traveling in a downward trajectory. And the reason why I need to know all of that is because where the muzzle of the gun is. So if I'm pointing it straight ahead of me, which is a traditional shooting pattern, or if I'm shooting it up in the air, or if I'm shooting it down on the ground, that is going to change where the casings go. And lastly, when a firearm was recovered that was believed to be the firearm used in this incident, I had to do some research on that particular firearm and review the photographs of that. And the reason why I have to do that is because, as I stated earlier, the casings are ejected out of each firearm after a round is fired to make room for the next round. Well, every firearm is a little bit different in the way that it kicks that cartridge casing out. And in this case, the Makarov P83 actually kicks the cartridge out to the back and to the right, which is one of the most common ejection patterns that we see. I'm very familiar with this because this is also the way that a Glock ejects cartridge casings, which is the firearm that we carry on duty. So I'm very familiar with where the casings go when this type of firearm is shot. So I was able to take all of this information and make some determinations about where the shooter may have been located within Kaylie's bedroom.
And what is the ejection route from a 9mm Makarov?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What is the ejection route or ejection path?
It's back and to the right from that.
And so what opinion were you able to come about the location of the shooter based on all that you just described?
So based on a shooter holding the firearm in a downward trajectory, so towards the ground, the casings actually, instead of going rear and to the right, they're actually going to go to the right and forward because now the gun is facing down. So based on that and the cluster of the 5 casings that are in the upper right corner of the photograph you're looking at, that tells me that the shooter was probably back. So where you can see number 1, probably even further back from there and to the left of those casings. Because again, I'm shooting the gun down towards the ground. So the casings are now going to go forward and to the right. So the shooter is going to be back and to the left of the location of the casings.
And when you say to the left, are you saying closer to where like 5 and 6 are located, like closer to the wall where the mirror is?
So when I say left, sorry, I'm pointing myself towards the wall. So if I'm looking at the wall in this photograph, to the left is more towards the bed, and then back would be towards the wall that's out of the picture. It might be easier to show on the diagram.
Yeah. Can we go back to Exhibit 66, please? And then there's a laser pointer right in front of you. 66.
So if you look at where the bullet was located in the floor, that's one trajectory that I can say I 100% know where that is. So I know that the muzzle was pointed at least in that location at some point during this shooting incident. So using that, and then the location of Kaylie, which we were informed by initial responding officers was actually right next to where that round went into the floor. Based on this being there, I'm going to have the shooter is in approximately this location right here, facing this wall, which is the west wall in the home, with the firearm pointed down towards the ground.
How do we want to describe that for the record?
I could use cardinal directions. Would that help?
Can you describe using the locations on the diagram where you believe the shooter was? So I know you circled it, but now can you talk it out?
So I'm going to say that the shooter's approximate location would be closer to the, it's hard to say because there's no number there. So in between 1 RB and this is the east wall of Kaylie's bedroom. So in this area.
Record should indicate that it would be above RB and 1 and a little bit toward the wall that most of the bullets, most of the indications are not toward, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Front door.
And so when you're 100% sure that the muzzle was pointed down at the location of where the bullet is found in the subfloor, is that consistent with the shooter standing over Kaylie Juga, pointing the gun directly at her, above her, and pulling the trigger?
Yes.
Can we have State's Exhibit 18, please?
I have a question.
Yes?
We are definitely going to have her back tomorrow because Mr. Johnson hasn't.
All right. Good time to pause because I have a question. This is the end of the day. It's 1 o'clock. We can do the rest of her testimony, which is on day 2, and then the mom, if you guys want to, on day 2, and then stop, or we can stop here. You guys let me know. Also, this lady's, she's tricking me because I like her hair color. I could never pull it off, but she does quite nicely. So it's a little, not rigid, but she seems very rigid. Okay. Right? But she's got to have a wild streak in her. That's completely fine, Gabby. We can stop here and we can do day 2 all together because I know you got to go get some culture. Okay, so she's going to the museum. And she can't take her earpiece with her. All right, so Hamilton found out from her friend who's a nurse that, okay, I'll just put it up here. When you're doing CPR, it's going to come out, which is the red fluid in your body. And he says if you're a heavier person, that might block the wounds. Well, we all know Kaylie was not. She was a little cheerleader. But it would be internal bleeding then. So either way, yes, it's going to gush from the CPR. I'm just wondering if you got to do it, but is it causing more harm than good? Was kind of where I was at. Well, how are you going to be cultural when we thought you were going to go get some culture and stuff and bring it back to us and help us. And I love that he said you could have taken the earpiece. Tell him thanks, because we all appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, when we continue this, Miss Valeri, Officer Valeri, will be on the stand. And then Stephanie Juga, which is Kaylie's mom, she takes the stand. We get 2 of his friends. We get a few more before we get another officer again. So, which is always interesting. Yeah, but if you went to the museum and you were listening to us, you would not be getting the cultural experience to bring back to us to give us, some class. All right. Well, whatever you're going to go do, Gabby, have a good time. Whatever the rest of you guys are doing today. Hope you guys have a good time. I'm going to take them off. It is 66 degrees here today, so I may go outside. And Carmen's going to be like, it's like 85 down here. I didn't even know. I figured you were long gone, Carmen. I did. I told you were going to have to bring us back some class. Class up the joint. You too, Katrina. It was good to see you. Hopefully you can join us again soon. We'll be back Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Don't think we have any sentencings this week anymore. Don't forget. Hang on, Hamilton. Don't leave yet. Tonight at 5:30. There's a link on my YouTube channel, on my YouTube page in the community. There's Excited Utterance is having Franklin Tucker and his wife Lauren Janai on for an interview. So I'm going to try to be in her chat at 5:30. It's at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to try to be in her chat. And I told her, she asked if I would just tell everybody on my channel. So I'm telling y'all, there's a link in the description here. There's a link on my page. Again, it's Excited Utterance. She's an Aussie, so she should appreciate all of our koalas, which has become the unofficial official mascot of this channel. Thank you, Hamilton. So, yeah, Stormy, you and Carmen, go enjoy your 80s. All right, Bond. 30 degrees. Where are you? If that's warm for February. Because 66 is definitely warm for me. This is like record high today, and then tomorrow, and then Wednesday we have a chance for snow. So good. Okay. What'd you say? Yeah, so whoop, I just made myself bigger. Where'd that go? Yeah, so no, I knew that it would come out. I just wondered if it was doing more harm than good. But then you're saying that they've lost so much. Yeah, and then give them to surgery. I got it. Yes, hopefully you guys can come on and watch the Tucker interview and support Excited Utterance. Northern Utah. That's so pretty out there. So, yeah, today is Monday. Today's Monday. I will keep repeating that to myself till I get it. Today is Monday. So, yes, nothing tomorrow. Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll do day 2 of this one, and it's a longer day. And we get some better witnesses. And then I don't know, because I went to go do timestamps on day 3 and I got busy. But other than that, thanks for coming out early this morning, because that was an early day, especially you, Bon, and Carmen. It was early for you guys to get up and join that sentencing. So I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. It helps me a ton. Carmen, I know that's your bedtime, so I appreciate it. Just glad you were off work and could join us. All right, I will see you guys. Let me figure out what I'm doing. I'll see you guys all Wednesday morning. Go enjoy the rest of your day. And maybe I'll see you tonight. Come and check out, come and check out Excited Utterance. I'm really going to try to be in her chat. I really like her. She should do a great interview with those guys. So, all right, see you guys later.